Cynthia Rylant, and this is just a little bit about me. I have two cats. The Benjamin is the young one, and Boris is the old one. Benjamin was a stray cat who asked to come inside one very cold February day. Boris and I agreed that it would be all right to let him in. He decided to stay. I put an extra bowl beside Boris's bowl, and now they eat side by side. I've always loved dogs and cats, and many of my dear pets of days gone by appear in my books. Martha Jane is in The Bookshop Dog. Gracie Rose is in The Great Gracie Chase. Edward Velvet Paws and Tomato are in Cat Heaven. Many of my favorite things to do are also in my books. Mr. Putter makes tea and takes naps in the Mr. Putter and Tabby books. And here is the first of the Mr. Putter and Tabby books. Lila and Whistler explore the seashore in the Lighthouse family books. Annie dresses up fancy in the Annie and Snowball books. Murray watches Jeopardy in Gooseberry Park. Murray is a bat, but he likes TV. Simple things make good books. I did not plan to become a writer, but I did want to be useful and to do something meaningful. I grew up in a large coal mining family in West Virginia. I loved school and my bike and twirling the baton. I had a happy, peaceful life in the mountains, and that life inspired many of my books, including When I Was Young in the Mountains, The Relatives Came, The Blue Hill Meadows, Christmas in the Country, and Snow. I moved to Ohio when I was grown up, and my little boy and I had lovely times there. We lived beside a very nice professor who became Professor Albert in Gooseberry Park. Kona, the chocolate Labrador, lived across the street. We met a big, drooly dog who became Mudge in the Henry and Mudge books. We flew kites and went sledding and watched movies in the old movie theater in Kent. The farm fields were beautiful in the fall, the sky so blue, the fields so deep and brown. Then we moved to Oregon, and there were new adventures. In Oregon, I decided to pick up a paintbrush, which I had never done in my whole life, and I painted a book in 3 weeks. It was my first book painted all by myself, and it was called Dog Heaven. I was afraid to try to paint, but a friend said, "Just paint like a child," and I did. Blue, red, yellow, green, purple, squirt, squirt, squirt. I lived on an island for a while. I saw eagles catch fish. And I once saw a whale's tail, which sent me spinning with delight. The fog was very, very thick some days. And there were rainbows nearly every day in springtime. And all these things made me feel like writing, because it is really a beautiful world. It is a world worth writing about. We go through many changes in our lives, and some of them are hard. But the sky still has stars at night. The moon still shines. The world does not leave us empty-handed. Boris and Benjamin and I and all my faraway pets who are having adventures in dog heaven and cat heaven, and my old greenhouse, and the raccoon in the garden, and the baby squirrels in the walnut tree in the yard, we all send you love. Well, maybe you have figured out that I am really not Cynthia Rylant, but the more I read of her works, I am fairly sure that we would be kindred spirits. Miss Rylant has authored over 137 books, with just a few of them along the back of the walls here. What I just read to you was an introduction that she wrote and posted on her own website. You can go to her personal website to learn more things about her. As you've heard, Cynthia Rylant has a very positive outlook on life, and she has positive, hopeful themes in all of her books. Love of friends, love of family, and love of animals in all shapes and sizes. Her Lighthouse Family series features a cat and a dog and 3 mice who form a very unusual but loving family. She also presents a great love for the mountains, all of nature, and the simple life. And now what I'd like to do is to read to you Cynthia Rylant's very first book. Cynthia Rylant's first book, When I Was Young in the Mountains, was copyrighted in 1982. And it has received both the Caldecott Honor Award and the Reading Rainbow Award. And that's pretty amazing for a very first book of an author. And this was one of the books that she said she was greatly influenced by her childhood in the Appalachian Mountains. There was a time when her mother had to go train to be a nurse. And so Cynthia was left with her grandparents for 4 years, and her mother was only able to visit once in a while during those 4 years. And so she grew to really love the country and the mountains and her grandparents. And this book is going to present all of those themes. When I was young in the mountains, Grandfather came home in the evening covered with the black dust of a coal mine. Only his lips were clean, and he used them to kiss the top of my head. When I was young in the mountains, Grandmother spread the table with hot cornbread, pinto beans, and fried okra. Later, in the middle of the night, she walked through the grass with me to the Johnny house and held my hand in the dark. I promised never to eat more than 1 serving of okra again. When I was young in the mountains, we walked across the cow pasture and through the woods carrying our towels. The swimming hole was dark and muddy, and we sometimes saw snakes, but we jumped in anyway. On our way home, we stopped at Mr. Crawford's for a mound of white butter. Mr. Crawford and Mrs. Crawford looked alike and always smelled of sweet milk. I just love these pictures, don't you? When I was young in the mountains, we pumped pails of water from the well at the bottom of the hill and heated the water to fill round tin tubs for our baths. Afterward, we stood in front of the old black stove, shivering and giggling, while Grandmother heated cocoa on top. When I was young in the mountains, we went to church in the schoolhouse on Sundays and sometimes walked with the congregation through the cow pasture to the dark swimming hole for baptisms. My cousin Peter was laid back into the water, and his white shirt stuck to him, and my grandmother cried. When I was young in the mountains, we listened to frogs sing at dusk and awoke to cowbells outside our windows. Sometimes a black snake came in the yard, and my grandmother would threaten it with a hoe. Here's grandmother. If it did not leave, she used the hoe to kill it. 4 of us once draped a very long snake, dead of course, across our necks for a photograph. When I was young in the mountains, we sat on the porch swing in the evenings, and grandfather sharpened my pencils with his pocket knife. Grandmother sometimes shelled beans and sometimes braided my hair. The dogs lay around us, and the stars sparkled in the sky. A bob white whistled in the forest. Bob, bob, bob white. When I was young in the mountains, I never wanted to go to the ocean, and I never wanted to go to the desert. I never wanted to go anywhere else in the world, for I was in the mountains, and that was always enough. And that is the first book by Cynthia Rylant, and her other 136 plus books are just as wonderful. I hope you will look her up and find some Rylant books today.